From the book by Swami Kriyananda, Rays of the One Light. Deeds versus intentions. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Jesus Christ emphasized repeatedly the spirit nor the letter of the law. In chapter 5 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, he speaks of the sin of killing and of the legal punishment attendant on that sin, but says that more important than the act is the desire to kill or to do harm. He shows that the sin of harmful desire goes beyond merely wanting to kill. My message to you, he said, is this: whoever is angry with his brother without cause already stands condemned. Whoever contemptuously calls his brother a fool shall answer for it to the Supreme Council, and whoever calls his brother an outcast of God shall be in danger of hellfire. Brother here means any other human being. For all of us, in the highest sense, are brothers and sisters, children of our one Father, Mother, God. The true self of one is the self of all. To hurt another is, even if one doesn't realize it, to hurt oneself. Swami Kriyananda in the Path recalls an episode in which the Master Paramahansa Yogananda revealed a sense of identity even with the plants. One day, Kriyananda wrote, "We were moving a delicate but rather heavy tropical plant into position on the hillside. Our handling evidently was too rough, for Master cried out, 'Be careful! What are you doing? Can't you feel it's alive?' To wish death to anyone, to wish even harm to another creature, is to deny in oneself the reality of that divine life of which all of us are manifestations. It is, in short, to deny the eternal truth proclaimed by the Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter. This self is never born, nor does it perish. Once existing, it cannot even cease to be. It is birthless, eternal, changeless, ever itself. It is not slain when the body is slain." So, through the sacred scriptures, God spoke to mankind. Yogananda had given a few pieces of advices to the disciples and therefore to all of us just a couple of days before he left this body in his Mahasamadhi's day. The last one was this one. Another thing he said, I would like to tell you that you might be respectful towards one another as you have been towards me, to be kind to one another as you have always manifested kindness towards me, because you see God is in everyone. And if you manage to see the good in every person, then you will see God in every circumstance. And so it's very important that us, each one of us, we can be channel of this tender and compassionate love of God towards us, because that love changes all conflicts among men, and that's where God has His presence there. I'll tell you a story. There was a woman, there was a couple actually. They were in a car on the highway, and at a certain point, they saw a car that had was acting strangely, and it was going to the other. It was moving around along the road, and it was obvious that the driver was not. It was driving in a dangerous way, so something was wrong. So very cautiously, they tried to overtake the car, and the woman that was not driving look at the man looks at the man, and she could see how this man was so mad, and he was insulting the woman sitting next to him. So that's why he was driving in this unusual way. And then when they reached the exit of the highway, they realized that their car was just behind them. So this woman wanted to do something to help them, and tells the husband to pay for the fee of the highway, and also writes a message, and have a nice, beautiful, sunny day. So they pay, and they go ahead, and the other car reaches them, and the man was smiling, and the woman also had written a big notice, and she said, it worked, thank you for your kindness, it really made a change. So this is a nice story, because these people remained calm, although they knew that the guiding, this kind of guiding, was very dangerous, but they didn't insult them or protest. They just remained calm, and so God could flow through them and suggested them to do something nice to them, to try to help them and bring some harmony in that couple. Kindness leaves an imprint very profound in our hearts, because kindness is a way of wanting to see the potential good in the heart of somebody else, and this somebody else, when he feels treated with this respect and kindness, it elevates. She elevates, just like it happened in the story I just told you. So this woman had an open heart. So maybe the Lord was able to infuse some thoughts in her heart. Yogananda said, thoughts are not ours; they have universal roots. And when we are attuned with the God's thoughts, His good as kindness can flow through us, and He knows what His children need. So what we do is appropriate and just for that person. So this woman did not focus on the aggressiveness of this man, and she just thought it was just a momentaneous thing. But she decided to elevate her energy in such a way to go beyond that anger at that moment, and it was a very successful way. And I'll tell you another story. So this was a father who was helping his smallest daughter with her homework, and she was looking at the he was looking at the homework and just wanted, and was showing her all the correction that the teachers had made. And at some point, the girl was very upset, and she said, "Well, but you're looking just the wrong things. You just not." She was um, crying, and she said, "You're not looking at the good things that I've done." And for the father, he understood suddenly that he was doing the same mistake in also in other occasions in his life. So it was suddenly just a revelation for him, because it was his way of doing. He would only see the faults of other people, and it didn't notice he never noticed the good things. So he decided to change, and he said he decided to change his reading glasses and to put the love reading glasses because he wanted to. I decided that he wanted to observe anything that was good in other people. When there is a will like this, God helps us to show us the good in other people. And if we are looking for the good in other people, we will find it, and God will help us. And then there is another story. This is about a couple of Kriyaban who live in America, in the Ananda village. And there was a day, there was a party at the Crystal Hermitage. And so they were there, they were talking to one another. And as the Swami approaches them, and when he comes to them, he says hello to the husband and doesn't look, not even looks at his wife, just talks to the husband. And then as it doesn't pay any attention to the woman. And then as he finishes to talk, it turns around and gives it back to the woman. And she just couldn't believe that Swami could do something like this because of his proverbial kindness, and she couldn't understand why he had acted like that. And as a matter of fact, after a few days, she and her husband had a discussion, and she was really angry at some point. She turned her back to her husband and left him. And while she did that, she immediately remembered what why Swami acted like that, because he wanted me to know and learn how does one feel when given one's back. So she said to Swami, "I will never do this again." Kindness is wanting never to do any harm to anyone, nor with the thought or with the gaze or with gestures. And it's a desire of respecting the other and welcoming the other. Yogananda, when Swami used to talk about Yogananda, he would talk about a person, a very, very kind person, of kindness expressed with very small gestures and just a single word that would bring a sense of peace. And Yogananda would say, be millionaires of smiles, generously. Just give your smiles to everyone, just smiles of compassion, of generosity, of goodness to everyone you meet. Another story, when Swami would very often invite his friends for a dinner, for a meal together, and he would ask people to prepare those meals. In those days, Asha was his secretary, and she was also an excellent cook. And Swami had asked her to set that dinner. She wasn't meant to, she was not going to do it by herself. She would get some help. But that particular time, there was a person who was not invited for this, but as a matter of fact, she asked this person to prepare the two main meals, the main part of the meal, and Asha accepted her proposal, and she noticed that the final result of what she prepared wasn't particularly good. And as Asha brought the food, and Swami immediately said to Asha, Asha, but this is the best, the most excellent dinner that you ever prepared. And Asha said, but you haven't tried it yet. But Swami repeated the same thing. And she realized right away what Swami meant with his words. So the ingredient, the special ingredient of that dinner was her sensitivity to other people's feelings. Because kindness is also wanting to give attention to the other person. And Asha, when she received this what could seem an absurd request, she remained calm, and through this calmness, Master could flow through her, and she was suggested what was the best thing to do. So imagine the joy of that woman who prepared the food for Swami. This woman really wanted so hard to do something for Swami, and she was able to do it thanks to this, to Asha's reply. So it's just a beautiful example of kindness. And when we have this feeling that we are about to explode, let's remember that we always have a choice before we use a bad word or we do a wrong gesture. Let's stop for a moment and maybe let's take a deep breath. Maybe a prayer can help or an affirmation can help. For instance, there is one that says, with the kindness of God, I embrace the entire mankind. And in that moment when we can choose, and we do always have the possibility to choose, the important thing is that we don't rush immediately into action, that we remain calm and we use self-control. And in that moment of calmness, God will suggest us the right thought. And it's a great satisfaction because after all, it's going to be a great work of art. So I would like to tell you another story. There was a man who thought to have been treated in the wrong way, unjustly. He lived at Ananda. He went to see Swami Kriyananda, and from the moment he sat for about an hour, he started to attack him and wanted to convince him that Swami was a complete failure. His music was not good, and the books were superficial, and the communities, nobody needed them, and that for sure his life would have not made the master happy, and so on. When he was finished, Swami thanked him, and this man left, and the wife was there with him, of course, was sharing she didn't talk, but she agreed. And at that point, Swami went to the piano, and that's when he composed I Live Without Fear. Oh my Lord, at your presence I live without fear. The touch of your hand is my strength and my guide. I don't ask for riches that the death can destroy. I only desire your love and your joy, and I welcome every circumstance with you as my friend. This is the right attitude in front of some certain difficult circumstances, to go with God as our friend. So He will help us to remain calm and remain in our center and to have self-control. And we will understand so So, because to the heart of kindness there is another thought, the thought of wanting to go beyond our desires, our personal desires that come always from the ego consciousness, this thing of wanting to have the last word, wanting to emerge. And these things will take us always to have this attitude that it's not really kind, it's not pure kindness. Kindness is a gift of God. So in order to be kind, truly we want to be rooted in God, and He will inspire us to see the good in everyone, to wanting to go beyond our small things, and wanted to bring that sense of joy and peace to the people that might need. And the prayer is a beautiful instrument in order to help us to direct our energy towards those heights where Master wants to take us. So I would like to read you a prayer, very beautiful, from Whisper to from Eternity. O Lord, allow me to welcome those who make mistakes as my sleeping brothers, because Thy light hides within the most gloom-shrouded soul, waiting to be revealed and appreciated by all at last. Teach us not to deny the sweetness of help, even to those persons who try us bitterly with wounding words or even with blows. Help us to scatter fragrant flower petals of forgiveness and return sweet speech for every sour word, smiling love for all hatred, heartfelt kindness for people's anger, and brotherly and sisterly goodness for every injury. Sure, obviously, for people like Swami, like saintly people, it's something natural to behave like this in a compassionate and loving way. So Swami was completely permeated by God's love. We also want to get to that point, but along our journey, at least for most of us, we must practice more self control. For instance, Yogananda said, I'm not asking you to win the temptation. I ask you to resist to the temptation to judge, to criticize, and get angry, and to have a wrong word or unkind gesture. Yogananda said, just resist a little bit to those things. It's an affirmation prayer. A prayer affirmation can help us. With kindness of God, I embrace all humanity. This is one of the affirmations. Or there is another one that Yogananda gave. Lord, fill me with peace and harmony. Peace and harmony. Lord, fill me with peace and harmony. Peace and harmony. Lord, fill me with peace and harmony. Peace and harmony. This is the shortest way. And so we will be filled by this special gift that is the kindness of the heart. Every blessing, all the blessings to you all.